H.R. McMaster, I think, delivers one of the most sort of cautious memoirs of his time, but he does indict the COVID response. And he says, let me put it up if I have it, to USA Today. He basically describes the COVID response. Here it is. McMaster said Trump's instinct to downplay the virus did not make sense. Quote, in my experiences as a military commander, the more you tell your soldiers even about the most dangerous mission, it's going to allay their concerns and it's going to encourage them to take initiative, he said. The COVID-19 response is, quote, probably one of the biggest shortcomings of the Trump administration. Let me ask you if the opposite is true. Could anybody other than a Kushner or a Trump come out of this administration, speak out publicly in the final days and say anything positive about the president's performance or response to the pandemic?
Well, they keep trying, right? And it's laughable. And quite frankly, I think it's disrespectful of the people that have suffered. And the suffering is not just those that have been sick or those that have lost someone that they love. It's the economic suffering. It's the fact that I had phone calls with multiple friends last week who are 2 weeks into home learning and they're at the breaking point. They can't juggle it all. And what's aggravating about it is that it was preventable. We didn't have to be destined to most of our school systems being shut down again. If we had done the proper planning and implementing strategies and plans that have been designed for 15 years, if we had implemented them as planned last spring, we would be in a different place today. And as far as I can tell, they're still not doing the planning and the responsible activities that are needed to test and trace to be able to carry us through this winter. All I see them talk about is the vaccine. And while I'm glad we're making progress on a vaccine, we need to have a full throated approach. There's no guarantee that the vaccine's going to work. There's no guarantee that it's going to come quickly. So what about all of the other plans that objectives that are written down that tell us that would help mitigate this? And we're moving into the winter. I don't understand. You see me struggling with the words. It is. For 20 years working in the security industry, you come up with, here's what we need to do if we have this kind of bad day or that kind of bad day. It justifies my sense of what it means to be in public service and to do national security planning if you aren't doing everything within your power to try to protect Americans. And right now I see a half-hearted effort very focused on vaccines because that's what the president wants it to be.
I want to ask you about something you said to me once when I asked you, what was your process and why did it take you the time that it took you? And you talked about sort of buying some of the talking points, especially around the president's language toward Christian voters and evangelical voters. And he's got a sort of open runway to tell those sorts of lies, if you will, to those parts of the coalition that he assembled 4 years ago around the Supreme Court fight. What would you say to push back on those things that he's likely to say in the coming days to the kinds of voters that might be open to them?
I would say if you're a Christian, please go read scripture and look at what God calls us to do for our neighbor and how we're supposed to love our neighbor. In the Old Testament, there are over 92 references to foreigners and strangers and sojourners. What this country has done to refugees, dropping the refugee ceiling to 18,000 this last year, when we had the capacity and we had enhanced security and vetting, so there wasn't really a security argument to be made anymore. It became clear that this was much more about preventing somebody that looks different than us from coming into our country. What we've seen happen on the southern border, instead of what the law requires when somebody presents for asylum, returning people immediately, using COVID as a justification for it. And don't get me wrong, this is very complicated and we do have to do public health measures. But the way that was carried out is just another example of trying to implement what is not a pro-life ethic in their agenda. So when I now look at pro-life, I'm looking conception to grave. And that means everything from how you treat people, immigrants and refugees, as well as how you deal with issues around racial injustice. And that's what Scripture has eliminated to me, is what it really means to have a pro-life ethic. And I do not think this president has that pro-life ethic. Therefore, I cannot vote for him.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.